Good evening. This is Maestro Cortello with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 2v2 on Medean Cliff Mines. Our first player here today is Commissar Lag, playing as this Pink Lord of Chaos. The Chaos Lord is a tanky melee hero. He has a twin-linked bolter, so he does some decent range damage, especially if you choose to get the Combi Flamer. He can also become pretty devastating in melee later on. He does not get knocked down or suppressed, and he can walk through cover, as we saw him do right there, walking through that barbed wire. Our next player is Dr. Pikkuk as the Orc Warboss. The Orc Warboss is yet another tanky melee hero. This one can also walk through cover, but he can be suppressed and knocked down, so maybe the Warboss actually gets scared of things, but the Warboss is still a fearsome hero. Very, very powerful, can really stomp all over things, can really hurt other melee units in particular, especially weak melee squads. Now on the other team, our first player, if we can target him properly, is Handsome Sodding Superman. This is yet another tanky melee hero. This Force Commander is obviously not nearly as big as the Chaos Lord or that Warboss, but he is still very, very powerful and very durable. He can be suppressed, he can be knocked down, he does not walk through cover, but he can also punch vehicles to stop them in their tracks. He can use that Thunder Hammer to disrupt melee units. Very, very good hero in many ways. And finally, we have Inky, playing as the Apothecary. This guy has a chainsword, so he's a melee hero, but not really a tanky one and not very powerful. He's really more about supporting units with heals to make the Space Marine units like Tactical Marines and Assault Space Marines even more resistant to bleed than they already are. So this is a replay that was sent to me by Dr. Pikkuk, so thank you, Dr. Pikkuk. One of the things that I'm doing for today, all three of the replays that I'm uploading today are going to be user submissions. I've just had a little concern that I may be neglecting my user submissions a little bit. I still have been uploading some user submissions, but I don't think I've really been acknowledging them enough as user submissions. And what I mean by that is that sometimes even if I cast a user-submitted game, I might not say that, like, oh, this replay was sent to me by this person, and then people may not realize that I'm actually casting some games that people are actually sending to me, since there definitely have been a lot of games that have fallen by the wayside, games that I just haven't cast, some of which may not be good enough, and some of which probably are. I haven't watched all of them. I've just received a lot more than I ever expected to. Although at the same time, I definitely have also been passing up some of those games in favor of games that I have gotten myself by mining them off of game replays. So I wanted to take some time to honor the submissions that people have given me. And today I'm going to be doing 3 replays, starting with this one, all users submitted, and they will also all come from different players. So this one came from Dr. Pikkuk. He also said that in his profession, and basically just with his circumstances, he does not get to play, he basically just does not get to play video games that much. So he was happy to get to play and have a pretty good game that he felt may actually be worthy of a cast. So Warboss went down right here for Dr. Pikkuk, but I think Commissar Lag will get a revive on him. One of the things that's actually very good about these tanky melee heroes is that they're very, very good at reviving other heroes in teams, because they can often tank damage while they're reviving so that they can get their hero up. Which is, it's something like you don't think of. Like that's one of the things I try to see and that I try to tell people about when I cast games. Things that are not as immediately obvious. Like when you think of a hero in terms of its abilities, a lot of people probably just think in terms of its fighting abilities. One of the advantages of having the higher health pools of being these tanky melee heroes is that they're better at they can be better at reviving other heroes, because they can stay in there longer. They can revive other heroes in situations where a weaker hero, like say, I don't know, the Inquisitor may not be able to. So we have some interesting, we have some builds here We got double shooter boys from Dr. Pikkuk. He has actually fully invested them already. He has both the big shooters as well as the shooter knob. And I can definitely see why he would do that against Space Marines, and particularly against the Apothecary, since the Apothecary has so much staying power to give to his units, courtesy of his heals. And with the build that Dr. Pikkuk has gone, this massive Orc DPS, it will just really help him to DPS right through those heals. Even if they get a heal, Dr. Pikkuk will be able to pretty easily just make the damage back up, courtesy of the massive firepower coming out of his shooter boys, as well as the melee DPS out of all of his melee units. We now have some Storm Boys out on the field for him. Very, very powerful Orc melee unit. Has 150 DPS power melee. They're jumping behind the Tactical Marines, and the Tactical Marines have no anti-melee support. They're going to be in a lot of trouble right there. One TAC model goes down from those Storm Boys, especially if they have user choppers on them. And oh, these Tactical Marines get knocked down. Unfortunately, Inky is staying in this engagement a bit too long with his Tactical Marines. If anything, he was lucky to only lose 2 TAC models between his 2 squads against these Storm Boys. So if anything, I'd say Kinky is not really respecting these Storm Boys enough. They do 150 DPS power melee. That's more than Banshees. Yeah, it's just straight up more than Banshees. Now, that's not to say that they're better than Banshees. Banshees definitely have many other favorable characteristics. But still, those Storm Boys doing 150 DPS power melee. Dr. Pikkuk even managed to get out of there with 4 out of 5 models. So he did not even have to pay that much to reinforce. Meanwhile, Commissar Lag going for a very light build. He's got... he's only got 1 squad of Heretics, which is a little surprising. Most players these days get 2 Heretics. Very interesting there to see that attempted Purification Vials by Kinky. Not a terribly common war gear from the Apothecary, but it does have a lot of potential, particularly right there. If you throw it at the Apothecary's feet when he's getting swarmed by a squishy melee unit such as Heretics, you can sometimes even wipe that melee unit out just because they're standing around in all this fire. But it looked like Commissar Lag was savvy to it, retreated his Heretics pretty much immediately, and didn't lose much. Now, Commissar Lag went for that very light Tier 1 build, and part of that, one of the consequences of that is that he's not only the first person to Tier 2, but he's getting a major Tier 2 purchase, and when you go to Tier 2, you can go to Tier 2 and then try to get a unit out, a quick unit out, but a Dreadnought is usually not going to be a quick unit because of just how much power you need to invest to get that out. So it's very hard to rush a Dreadnought unless you're going for a very, very light Tier 1 build. Now right here, again, Kinky is not really respecting these Storm Boys enough, and he's going to lose his Assault Space Marines. So a squad of Assault Space Marines completely wiped out by those Storm Boys. And, I mean, Dr. Pikkuk, this time he lost 4 models, so he is going to have to pay a fortune to reinforce those Storm Boys. But he wiped the squad of Assault Space Marines, so he still profited quite a bit in that engagement. So we have some combined Orc and Chaos Force right here. That's going to be a lot of range DPS coming out of 2 fully upgraded Shooter Boy squads. We might even have a TAC get wiped for Kinky as well. And the TACs do get wiped, so... Kinky just finding himself caught in bad positions. Now he's getting chased down by some Slugger Boys. The TACs go back. That's not good. Kinky probably just lost track of his micro, and then the TACs just walk straight back into those Slugger Boys. This is going to be really bad. He might lose even more right here. He already lost a TAC squad and ASM squad. So far, no models are dead yet on that TAC squad. Sluggers might still get him, but the heal goes down from that Apothecary, at least just managing to prevent any further bleed. And this Chaos Dreadnought, right as of right now, the Chaos Dreadnought is completely unopposed. Handsome Sodding Superman is upgrading to a missile launcher so that he can at least threaten it. It can be difficult to take on a Dreadnought with just attack missile launcher, but it's always better to have AV than to not have AV when you're dealing with a vehicle. I mean, I hate to say that as an absolute, but it's probably true. In particular, like when a vehicle is completely unthreatened, you can really just do what you want with it, be as oppressive as you want with it. And at least having that missile launcher, even if you can't kill your opponent's vehicle, you can at least threaten it to the point that it's going to change how your opponent is going to use the vehicle. It will make them just a little more cautious. As it is, we had the effect that that missile launcher had was that it forced Commissar Lag to back off a bit with his missile launcher, with his Tzeentch Dreadnought. And that actually slowed down the Gen Bash. He has managed to make it back, and we see these Assault Space Marines are now upgrading to Thunder and Lightning, giving them access to the Melt-A-Bomb right here. And now I think Lag is actually leaving his Chaos Dreadnought a little unsupported. It does get hit by the Melt-A-Bomb. We do have some support for the Chaos Dreadnought in the form of these Havocs. So this Chaos Dreadnought is in a bit of trouble right now. The Assault Marines do not have enough energy to jump, but Sodding Superman has actually gotten around the firing arc using his Librarian, and he's going to tie up the Havoc. So now this Chaos Dreadnought is at 20 health, very unsupported. Oh man, Kinky tries to go for an Assault Cannon barrage, while Handsome Sodding Superman tried to go just for a melee kill with the Librarian on the Chaos Dreadnought. So the Chaos Dreadnought may actually just get out of there alive with 7 health. Especially with the Librarian getting disrupted, now upgrading to the Tome of Time, but the Assault Marines are running in there. Maybe they can finish it off combined with the Librarian, and we have Tome of Time activated, Veil of Time activated, I mean, on the Assault Space Marines, and it looks like they will get in there and finish the Chaos Dreadnought off. So, looked like that Chaos Dreadnought was just about to make it home, and it looks like Dr. Pikkuk is here for support, but unfortunately a little bit late. Now, what happened there between Superman, Sodding Superman, and Kinky was a little sort of lack of communication right there. Kinky went for a kill on that Chaos Dreadnought using the Assault Cannon barrage, whereas Sodding Superman went for a kill using the Librarian. But he ended up disrupting the Librarian with the Assault Cannon barrage, and then they didn't kill the Chaos Dreadnought right there. Ooh, we have a nice Assault Cannon barrage right there. A very nice called Assault Cannon barrage, because it looked like Commissar Lag was going to run right past the range of the Assault Cannon barrage, but instead he ended up running away and then running right into the Assault Cannon barrage. So now that Space Marine Dreadnought with the Assault Cannon, it does piercing damage, so it's normally pretty much useless against vehicles, but the Assault Cannon barrage does explosive damage, so it actually can damage vehicles, and that's why Kinky went for that barrage on the Chaos Dreadnought. He could have finished off the Chaos Dreadnought with the Assault Cannon barrage. Alright, we have some Assault Space Marines right here. These are Handsome Sodding Superman's Assault Space Marines. They're getting stunned by those Storm Boys, and it is pretty smart for Pikkuk to use his your Choppas on the Storm Boys. They are doing 150 DPS power melee to start out just with the Storm Boys, and then that knob is throwing in an additional 65 DPS heavy melee. So you're basically throwing a damage buff on a unit that is already incredibly, incredibly powerful. Chaos Lord looks like he almost went down right there. He just barely managed to get out. And it looks like they're going to commit to this engagement. Tacks are way overextended, walking right into Slugga Boys. Slugga Boys now walking right into a Chaos Dreadnought. Not Chaos Dreadnought. Space Marine Dreadnought is taking las cannon shots, taking a few too many. Kinky needs to get that Space Marine Dreadnought out of there. Looks like Slugga's already went down. A merciless strike doing horrible things to a Shooter Boy squad. One Shooter Boy squad. Both Shooter Boy squads are down. Oh, actually, this one's alive. I actually caught it alive, but now it goes down. So, unfortunately, massive losses for Pikkuk. He lost both Shooter Boy squads as well as some Sluggas. Although they did take out a Space Marine Dreadnought, which is certainly a good unit to take out, but Pikkuk lost quite a bit out of that. We actually see, wow, that's the Force Wall ability from the Librarian. That's an ability that you get when you upgrade it to the Force Staff. Not a very common upgrade choice, since those Librarian upgrades, they're often a bit optional. People mostly just get the Tome of Time. Sometimes they will get the Psychic Hood when they want to support Terminators with the Gate of Infinity ability. The Force Staff is actually definitely the least common war gear. It does improve his melee damage a bit, and it gives him that Force Wall ability, which is actually very risky because the Librarian cannot retreat out of that. He cannot interrupt it in any way. So once he starts it, if a unit actually gets around that Force Wall, the Librarian could actually just straight up be dead. So it looks like Lag is now over here bashing some generators using his AV units. Unfortunately, Lag's current composition is not really that great, since he really only he's got his Chaos Space Marines mainly and his Chaos Lord for fighting infantry, and then he has basically two AV units that don't have too much of a purpose right now. The Havocs in particular, mostly going to be a capping unit and can maybe tie up the Scouts. Plague Marines have a few more other uses, but they kind of don't really excel at anything. They don't even really excel as AV. We have Assault Space Marines jumping into absolutely the wrong place, getting debuffed by the trophy rack from the Warboss. And wow, the Force Commander has been upgraded to have the Thunder Hammer, so he is disrupting those knobs. Unfortunately, he's actually going to go down. So that Force Commander went down right there, even though he was disrupting the knobs with his Thunder Hammer. And I guess one of the things that happened there was that his Force Commander was only at about 40% health. And then he had a unit to disrupt and control the knobs in the form of the Force Commander, but he didn't really have, I'd say he didn't really have enough to do damage to the knobs. When you're dealing with a unit like knobs, or maybe also Terminators, but especially knobs since they're vulnerable to suppression and knockback, you really need both something to control them and something to do damage to them while you're controlling them. Now, Kinky was trying to do some damage with his Stern Guard veterans, but it just wasn't enough, unfortunately. That being said, Sodding Superman has chosen to put a Plasma Gun on his tac squad, and a level 4 tac squad at that. So very smart to put a Plasma Gun on that level 4 tac squad instead of getting the Stern Guard upgrade, since that would actually reset the levels. He's already got a level 4 tac squad. Might as well put a Plasma Gun on it. It's going to be pretty powerful. So Dr. Pikkuk has lost most of his units, but he's replaced it with knobs. He's got one squad of knobs fully upgraded, already to level 2. This one right here is only level 1. But, I mean, if you have 2 squads of knobs, it's actually okay to leave the other one. You don't necessarily have to fully upgrade the other one. Oh, that was... What was that? What? I even missed that. Oh, that was a Plasma Cannon shot. Some friendly fire from the Plasma Cannon. Another Plasma Cannon shot, and those Plasma Cannon shots will be very effective against the knobs as long as they can hit them. But Kinky does have to be a little bit careful about friendly fire. It looks like the Chaos Lord just might go down right here. 9 health, 10 health. Actually, he's going to get out of there alive. It's a no-cap game, 308 to 235 VPs. Commissar Lag floating a huge amount of resources, probably going for either, I was about to say either a Great Unclean One or a Land Raider Phobos, but then it answers my questions. He's got that Land Raider, not the, wow, I screwed up. He's got the Great Unclean One on the way. Meanwhile, Kinky is actually only just going to Tier 3 right now, although that means, given how many resources, how much resources Kinky has, that also means he was floating quite a bit. When he could have gone to Tier 3 much earlier. And Kinky can immediately put down Terminators, or he could pretty soon get a Land Raider Crusader, Land Raider Redeemer started. Bit of a lull in the action. Havoc's in a lot of trouble right here. This could be the end of that Havoc squad, especially with the Tome of Time on those Assault Space Marines. They just might take out the Havoc. I think, wow, the Havoc, oh no, wow. So I thought they were going to get out of there alive, but now I think Sodding will take out the Havocs, and he does, in fact, wipe the Havocs. So Nice, again, nice persistence by Sodding. Wow, we also have a Whirlwind artillery tank now from Sodding. A disruption artillery unit, which is often not really considered that great of a unit, but it could potentially be very useful against the knobs, especially since the Whirlwind does not do any friendly fire knockback. So it would disrupt the knobs without disrupting either Kinky's own units or Sodding's units. But we have a rock, so that the Whirlwind may not be disrupting for much longer. And the Whirlwind goes down. We have some Stern Guard veterans that actually look like the Stern Guard veterans actually just make it out there just fine. Looks like this Plasma Cannon Devastator squad will actually make it out there alive too. I don't know about these Sniper Scouts though. Sniper Scouts go down from Sodding. So there was a squad of Sniper Scouts. Sniper Scouts, not actually a very common upgrade. We have the Abyss of Chaos. So Commissar Leg tried to do that right in the spot where the Terminators were being called in. Unfortunately, it's not ending up not being too effective since the Terminators kind of got thrown out of the Abyss. And Kinky also just tried to move away from it. So he only did about 1,000 damage to the Terminators without actually killing any models, which, if you think about it, is actually really not that bad at all. It will take some field presence off, or it will make these Terminators go into a fight at less health, but Commissar Leg didn't actually, he didn't kill anything. He didn't even kill a model with that Abyss, so that was 500 red for not a whole lot. We have a Librarian, very brave Librarian, chasing down that Great Unclean One. He will do power melee damage, which will do bonus damage to the Great Unclean One. Looks like instead he's going to go tie up the Chaos Space Marines. Not a terrible choice, but the Librarian does now have to be careful about getting hit by the Great Unclean One. He does not want that Librarian to go down. Single entity, of course, cannot be revived like a hero. This is a very bad situation for the Terminators in a fight against knobs that have both Use Your Choppas and Ard Boys. In general, as good as ranged Terminators are in melee, they really can't take on knobs.
Your allies have captured.
And the blue team has actually really managed to bring the front to be right in front of the red team's base. They're basically fighting right in front of their base. What is Ulcair doing? He seems to be bugged in an animation. We're going to take a closer look at that just for fun. I don't know what he's doing, but it looks pretty cool and kind of funny. And it looks like Sodding may be trying to use that force wall as another way of controlling the knobs, but he does have to be very, very careful because right there, Dr. Pikkuk actually tried to get around the force wall, and he did succeed in getting around the force wall. And if knobs can get around the force wall and actually start attacking the Librarian, they will wipe him. So Sodding right there was actually very lucky that Kinky's Plasma Cannon Devastator disrupted those knobs on their way to his Librarian. Unfortunately, the red team not so lucky right now in terms of VPs and their engagements. They are down to only 59 VPs, 253, now to 55. Double cap for the blue team. And it looks like we have something going on right there. Space Marine, an assault Space Marine model goes flying. From these now, Tank Bustas out for Dr. Pikkuk. I'm surprised to see Tank Bustas. He may just be getting it preemptively, just expecting that it's totally possible that a Predator or a Land Raider could be coming out of any of these Space Marine players. They probably don't know that Sodding is not even in Tier 3. And although Kinky is, he did get Terminators, so he did already make a very big Tier 3 purchase. Although that being said, Kinky does have enough resources to put a Predator out on the field if that was something he wanted to do. But it's not really looking too good for the red team at this point. They're only down to 27 VPs, and it looks like the blue team will just about get a double cap off, or definitely a single cap. So it will probably be a single cap game for a little bit. The Apothecary right here is actually going to try to disrupt this middle cap, these heretics. He throws that Purification Vials. I was going to say, wow, and look at the damage those Purification Vials did. Now that's, of course, because the heretics are very weak. But it looks like that Apothecary is not going to get out of this one alive. And unfortunately, I don't know what the Space Marines could actually do to get all these orcs off the VPs. Instead, I think more importantly, they're going to need to get a unit on their natural VP, which they don't have right now. They just need to get a unit there, and some Raptors actually got wiped. The Librarian finished them off with that Force Staff. So pretty good Librarian use overall, at least keeping him alive to level 3 now, and he gets a lot of health out of that as well as a lot of energy. Yeah. So 1-to-1 cap, actually a 1-to-0 cap in favor of the red team. Although the blue team will definitely take the middle very soon. And once again, the blue team has really brought the front pretty much right to the red team base. And we're going to have probably Dead Devastators. No, the Plasma Cannon Devastators had a farm model that was just completely away. And we have that was a rocket barrage that did almost nothing to the Terminators. So we have more user choppas on the Storm Boys. Certainly a good unit to use Storm Boys on. To use user choppas on, given how good they are. I think it would actually, it would make them do fantastically against the Terminators. They would just be doing ridiculous damage, killing some Terminator models very, very quickly. 1-to-1 cap, 228 to 27. Still not looking good for the red team. They're trying their best to hang in there. But these Terminators are going to get wiped now. They just got knocked down. And one Terminator model teleported out of there, but he actually died right after he teleported, which I think is something that just happens because of lag. And I don't mean the player lag, I mean lag, the actual thing. Since there definitely have been times as a Sorcerer player when I would use the Warp Global, teleport a unit, and then it dies miles away from the enemy. And the Warboss right here has been upgraded. Heavy armor, power claw, and he also has the trophy rack. This is a fearsome Warboss. The Warboss is always very... I mean, he's tough enough as it is without some of these upgrades, but that heavy armor, giving him an extra 900 health, over 2,000 health at level 7. Absolutely ridiculous how much health he has. What can you do about that? And he also has that trophy rack, reducing damage to 25%, not to 25%, by 25%. Which, if you think about it, that's a lot. That is a lot. But it looks like the blue team may just about take it right here. 228 to 8 VPs. No! 1-to-1 cap. Who got a decap off? Probably just happened right in front of my face. And we have another Imperial Abyss. And this time, I think the Librarian, is he going to go down? Very low health Librarian at 23 health, but he just barely makes it out of there alive. And that Imperial Abyss right now is actually just denying that VP, just preventing anyone from capturing it. Although not much has actually been killed by Imperial Abysses. In fact, I don't think anything has been killed. Literally, I think 0 units have been killed by the Abysses. Now we have a Land Raider Redeemer out. Unfortunately, I think for Kinky, Dr. Pikkuk really has everything he needs to counter this Land Raider Redeemer. He also has units right next to the VPs that could start capturing the VP and probably win the game right there. He just needs to get a unit on the VP. We have a drop pod reinforcing the units right here. Now the Space Marines probably can't get a unit on this VP as long as that Great Unclean one is right there. The attacks are trying to do it under fire from the Flash Kits. And they are starting to take losses. They're out of range of the reinforcement from that drop pod. And they actually get pulled off the VP by the Great Unclean One. Foul Snare from the Great Unclean One pulls attack off the VP, and they couldn't cap it.
They strike from behind us.
So 2-1 for the red team. Only 8 VPs left, trying to stay in this game. Now again, this Land Raider Redeemer could be in a lot of trouble with plenty of knobs as well as other sources of AV around. Kinky is trying to be relatively conservative with it, keeping it in the back. It's about to get flanked by a new Chaos Dreadnought, this one with Mark of Corn. So this Chaos Dreadnought coming from behind. It's already lost some health though, but it's, I mean, right now these Space Marines are getting pincered. I think this is not a good situation for them. They are going to get forced off. Looks like one squad, a Las Cannon Devastator squad, was wiped. And this would also be a perfect opportunity to actually get a cap, but we have an orbital bombardment, which is not going to stop the Warboss from capturing. He will at least get the decap off with that capture. He will probably be thrown off after that. And it's actually, we also have a decap over here by lag, so that has to be the end of the game in favor of the blue team. And to finish with, oh, the Land Raider Redeemer died just literally right there as the game ended. Ooh, so pretty good game. VPs were, well, 190-0, so not too close in VPs at the end, but certainly a long game. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Again, that was a user-submitted replay submitted by Dr. Pikkuk. I will be uploading 2 more games today that will also be user-submitted. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.